Hey, welcome back to Basically EMS. I'm Chris. Got Wade as always, and we've got Nide who's coming back, but still want to tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. So hello, my name's Nide. I work for a local 911 EMS agency. I've been there for about 3.5 years. I'm an advanced EMT. Before that, I did some medical assisting with a private clinic, and my ultimate goal is to hopefully one day in this life be a doctor. So we're working towards it.
You know, it's going to happen.
It's going to happen. I'm putting out the vibes.
You just did some cool kind of more, maybe not doctor stuff, but what'd you do over the summer?
Oh, yeah. I had the privilege to be a part of a program called Atlantis, if anyone's ever heard of that. It's basically a physician shadowing program. You have the ability to travel to basically any location outside of the U.S. and shadow doctors. And so I was in a small, very small town in Spain called Ponferrada. And it was while I was there that I got to sit in the OR and watch some orthopedic surgeries and some GI surgeries, all sorts of stuff. It was really cool. It was
cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
Are you fluent in Spanish?
I'm not. Okay, so for people who don't speak Spanish, I sound fluent. But realistically, no.
They
but
make fun of you there.
Yeah, a little bit. They were like, gringa.
Some things don't change.
That's a gringa. But then I would say, oh, I'm from the U.S. And they'd be like, oh, your Spanish is pretty good. And I'd be like, okay, thanks.
It's like a handicap.
Yeah.
Oh, good job, sweetie.
Yeah, like, okay, you did better than most.
Well, cool. Yeah, today we're going to talk about something the Wade thought would be fun to talk about that I think will be a cool subject. Talking a little bit about kind of personal attributes that we think can make somebody a good EMT.
Yeah.
So I don't know, Wade, do you have something you want to kind of jump in to get started?
Yeah. Well, I mean, mine's like more like based on my life experience. You know, I played sports for the majority. And, you know, some of the things, I think sports is great for takeaways just in life in general. And a lot of it applies to especially 911 EMS jobs. I mean, fire departments love former athletes. And I think the biggest one that I got out of it is be coachable, right? Like this is a field of ups and downs and your confidence is going to come and go. Can you hold mentally tight enough to realize, okay, I sucked here. What can I do to be better? And if someone's giving me instruction, I mean, just bluntly put, not everyone out there is really nice when they talk to each other. And so can you not get your feelings hurt for the next 10 minutes, absorb the information, and then maybe weed out the stuff that was less productive?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that, especially where we have worked and come from, has a very, very good FTO program. Where for an EMT, it's usually 3 to 6 months, and for a medic is 9 to 12 months typically that you are working under an FTO. And having been an FTO, that was really helpful for people that had that right attitude. Because at the end of the day, we're all in it for the same thing, right? Like we're all there to be patient advocates. And so having somebody, especially that was new, that doesn't walk around with a chip on their shoulder of like, you know, I know more than anybody else, because we've all seen those people, right? Like, and sometimes you can pick up on that. Like we have to have confidence when we walk into those rooms, right? Like, and I say this all the time that like we have to walk a knife edge of like humble enough to be able to recognize our mistakes and learn, but confident enough to walk into a bus crash with 19 critically injured children and start ordering people around, right? We have to walk that weird knife edge.
You got to be prepared to be that guy,
Yeah.
you know, like the guy in the room.
And sometimes I think,
sorry, Nita.
sometimes I think for like new people, they see that confidence and they try to like start to wear that like, you know, like a shirt and they think that they're like above it, right? And they're not going to take direction or coaching.
Right.
And you know, you really need to take that because you're going to suck at this job for a long time.
Yeah.
Like it's going to take a long time for you to be competent and confident in what you're doing. And if you're too confident too early, people die.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to say the same thing, like walking that like line of like being confident, but also being humble, like knowing, being able to like, I think it also comes with time and experience, right? Like when you're like starting out as an EMT, it's like, I don't really feel confident really at all, period. But you have to like fake it till you make it almost in a lot of ways. And then I think as time goes on, like you definitely find that balance of like, okay, like if someone were to be like, you know, I feel like you could have done this better, I've been like, yeah, like I think you're totally right. I acknowledge that. Like, and I'm also like, you have to pretend like to an extent that like you are confident enough to handle something on your own. So yeah,
Fake
there's
confidence
definitely-
is still confidence.
fake confidence is still confidence. I agree.
And on the kind of the flip side of that, they're like there's the I'm too good for this mentality, but then there's also the people that you give them criticism and they shut down and they break, and that was something that I kind of had to overcome. I'm really hard on myself, and I've always considered myself a perfectionist in the things that like I wanted to really venture into, and then this field being none of that, no perfection allowed essentially, or just possible, that really broke me. And so I was my own harshest, worst critic for a long time. But then, I had to kind of step back and be like, it's because I care. It's because I want to be here and I want to do well. But also, when you have, not every training officer is going to be as good as the next. And, you have one or two that really kind of humbled you in different regards that you were used to. It's like, okay, how do I be hard on myself, but not harder than this guy is? Because they're already beating me down. I don't need to be my own worst enemy at the same time.
Which is where I feel like it's nice to have other people to like be able to be like, hey, look, like outside of just your FTO, right? Like, am I crazy for thinking that like I didn't totally F this up, but like, am I okay? You know what I mean? Like, and I think sometimes that is hard in the FTO process because you're like under the guise of their guidance essentially. So it's like, do I have the right to like question if I'm doing something wrong or right? So yeah, I think that's probably like a pretty tough situation to be in. So. And
I mean, I don't know, but I'm sure you guys have similar experiences. Like I've been yelled at by training officers before, and then after like the 45th minute, I'm like, I don't know if I deserve all of this, and that comes with being coachable. That can you take this, because they're not doing this because they want you to fail, right? They're doing this because they're harsh on themselves and they're maybe burned out, jaded, salty, whatever you want to call it. But can you take the information that they're trying to make you better with and spin it positively in your head? And whatever coachable looks like to you, it's kind of different, but it's something that needs to be, I think, embraced. And especially when you have, like you were saying, those people that just like, I'm above this. Yeah, your job or your career is not long. Your longevity starts to shorten the second you have that attitude.
Totally.
Yeah, I think you really need to be aware of what you're being told and like be coachable, but also like be critical about what you're being, what's coming. Yeah, be discerning about it. Like I remember specifically, I can't remember if I was in the FTO no, I think it was after I was in the FTO program, like but brand new, like baby medic, right? Like peach fuzz on my face, baby medic out there, and took in a patient that we did not intubate, who I just didn't feel like they were they were altered, but not to where it's like I was really concerned about it. Yeah, like they seemed like they were protecting the airway, whatever. And we walk into the local trauma center hospital, and like a nurse walks up, and it was just so silly to me. She walks up and she's like, "Oh, he's not intubated." I was like, "No." It's like I can look, and his GCS is low. And don't you know, less than 8 intubate? Haven't you heard that before? Like talking to me about a skill she's not even allowed to do with RSI, right? And so.
I know more than you. Yeah, sorry.
not even. No, I mean, she had been a nurse for a while, whatever. Right. But like that, like as a new medic, that was hard. Like it kind of crushed my confidence a little bit. So I'm like questioning my decision making, whatever. I'm like, well, yeah, this person said it, and they've got more experience than me. Obviously, they're right. And so my supervisor was on the call, so they were at the hospital, and I was like, hey, what do you think about that? And they're like, I could see both ways. I think what you did was fine. I don't have any problems with it, but have you talked to the doctor about it yet? And I was like, no, that's a good idea. So I walked in to talk to the ER physician, and I was like, hey, just wanted to get your thoughts about it. And she was like, look in the room right now. Is the patient intubated? And I was like, no, they're not. She's like, so what do you think I thought about your decision? It's like, probably agreed with it. And she's like, yeah, I made the same decision. So, I had that moment of somebody in the wrong way trying to kind of more question me instead of coach me, but same sort of thing, right? Like talking to me about my decision making and why, and instead of just like taking it, letting it crush my confidence, I was like, well, like let me get some other opinions. And then the opinion that really mattered was a doctor, and that was very helpful for me being new, of like, people are going to be hard on you, you're going to be hard on yourself, but maybe be critical thinking, have some critical thinking skills about it, ask other people, get other opinions, sometimes and build up from there. Right.
Well, and also like if you have a reason for like if you're justified and you're thinking for not doing something, right? Like, and it makes sense. It's like why would you question it? You know what I mean? Like just based off of what someone else said. So yeah, I get it.
And try not to take things personally too. Like who knows what that nurse was having, what kind of day, week, and home life even, you know. And I can think of a few examples in my working career of like, oh, me and this firefighter, this fire captain are not getting along. And I don't know what I did or said that we were just, you know, but I don't know what your home life looks like. Now, if it becomes a routine,
right,
that's where things start to change. You know, if it's a, you know, one flash in the pan, like exploded, it's like, whoa, you know, okay, I'm not going to take that one. I'm going to let that one slide off a little bit, but maybe we look into this, you know. But yeah, just give people grace, because remember, I was just talking to students about this. Like, this field is hard on your mind. It's hard on your body. And, you know, not everyone's processing things the same, you know. Like, just because you're tired at work doesn't mean you're not also tired at home. Like, I got a baby. I can't sleep at home, and now I can't sleep at work. You know, it's just, that doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, you definitely have to learn how to let things kind of roll off your back. Like, no, like picking your battles, right? Like, when do I really want to say something about this? And when can I just be like, not worth my time? Like, they've probably got something else going on. It's not about me. It's about,
Yeah, I think that's a big part of being coachable. So like recognizing that maybe it's not the person attacking you. It's not their personality. You know, there's something behind it. If you're feeling personally attacked, and we've talked about it. Like we had similar FTO experiences of like people that made us question if we wanted to even do this job, right? And like you just have to kind of get through that, because sometimes it is the person, sometimes it's just the day, you know. But kind of having that the end goal in mind as you're going through, because most people have had rough FTO experiences, and I think, you know, I've been around this for a while now. I think we're a lot better now than we used to be, right? Like where we work there was somebody that was known as the Terminator, and their goal was to make their trainee cry every day. Like, and that was the expectation. That's what because they had to like put you through it so that you know, came out the other side better. And we're not there anymore, I think, for the most part, but there is still, it's a high pressure environment. And so, you know, part of that being coachable is understanding where they're coming from. It's not a personal attack, right? Like, and just like learning from the lesson and not maybe the tone of the lesson sometimes. Right.
And even like on the flip side of that, like knowing when to also like check yourself, right? Like not only evaluating like how they're responding to you in a certain situation, but likewise, if you're in a situation where either you're getting feedback or you're giving feedback, like checking yourself as well. Like, okay, wait a second, am I coming off a little too harsh here, right? And that's, I think, kind of like the flip side of that.
Yeah. Self-reflection is huge. I mean, there's a medic that I know you worked with quite a bit, and I was talking to him, and he was getting pretty burned out at one point, and he was telling me, like, yeah, the moment I realize I'm yelling at old women who don't deserve to be yelled at, it's like, oh, I need to look internally for a second and reflect, is this a me problem or is this someone else? And that's that humble, you know, like, we're not God's gift to everything all the time. We're human, we make mistakes, but can you acknowledge when, like, I'm the butt here, I'm the problem?
Yeah, that was a big thing I would have conversations with my medic partners a lot about, of like, you know, like your tone and all of that with everybody, not just your patients, but like your coworkers and like the fire crews, and, you know, like please and thank you go really far.
They do.
You know, like it's not that hard. I get it's high pressure situations, but saying, give me that whatever piece of equipment versus can I have that piece of equipment, please? Or can you grab that for me, please?
Yeah.
Doesn't take any additional time, and just it helps the whole team solidify and really work together as a team, you know, in those moments. So really checking yourself and really thinking about like what you're saying.
And that's like a conscious effort to do. Like you do have to be very like self-aware of like how, like, because it's not something that just, I think, in those situations comes naturally, right? Like I think it does take a little bit of time sometimes to get there, but once you're at the point where you're like, okay, how do I want to say this, right? Because then what happens is you have someone speak that way to you, and you're like, I didn't like that. I wish they had just said, you know, please or thank you or something, right? And then you're like, okay, for reference, now I know, and now I want to be able to give that same energy back in a better way. So,
and that self-reflection too. Like, there's definitely been calls where, you know, I maybe wasn't, not that I don't feel like I was ever rude to fire crews or partners or anything, but like, afterwards, if it was a hot call and maybe you weren't like as respectful, not even respectful, but we're saying please and all those, like at the end of when it's done, right, at the hospital, when you all meet up, be like, hey, I appreciate you guys. Like, I really appreciate what you guys did. Like we rocked it. Here's some great things you did. And like that, having come from somewhere where there was a lot more contention between fire and EMS and working here where generally, especially, where we work, there's a couple different fire departments we work with that some of them I think work a little bit better with EMS, right? The area I would typically work, like they knew me, I knew them, and that relationship had started at the very beginning, and we fostered that relationship of like, we're going to say please and thank you. At the end of a call, I'm going to be like, hey, appreciate you guys. You know what I mean? Like that goes really far.
It does.
For this.
I totally agree. And I mean, unfortunately, I've been on kind of, a couple situations where we have had, some tension, conflict with different fire agencies. And so I think, in reflecting on those, situations, I was able to like realize, okay, like there's more I could be doing here. And that's where like that conscious effort to like say thank you and to be present and to like let them know, like, they just want to feel appreciated, right? We all just want to feel appreciated. Sure. And we all just want to know that like what we're doing means something to not only like the patient and the community, but like also to our coworkers and our partners. So
to ourselves.
Yeah, to ourselves. Exactly. So, and that helps. Words of affirmation are big. Like it all goes a long way.
And one of my favorite exchanges I ever watched, it was with a freshly cleared medic. I was working with this freshly cleared medic and we ended up getting a third EMT for the night. And the new medic was stressed, very, high stressor medic, not a crazy call. But during the call, the medic was to the EMT was like, give me that, and then after it was like, hey, I am so sorry for the way I talked to you, which then the EMT, one of my favorite people, gave just this lighthearted, like, dude, I was a Marine. You could have told me in explicit words, to do whatever. And I'm like, okay, here you go. And it was one of those where it's like, you don't realize how little it affects some people, but you won't realize how much it affects them or doesn't until you say something.
Right.
Right. And so take the time, like, hey, my bad on that. Like I miscommunication or whatever, but own your mistakes because it's going to be there and, communicate with everybody because most conflict is just miscommunication and it's easily resolved.
Yeah. And sometimes you have to be the change that you want to see in a culture, right? Like
totally agree.
Having worked at different places with different cultures, like sometimes you have to be the first one that steps up and makes those relationships start to strengthen. And having worked in both, like I said, like it was so great working with like crews that I, that knew my name. Like I worked where I worked before for over 3 years. I doubt any of those guys knew my name, right? I knew all their names because they were the fire department and I had to, right? But like nobody knew my name, like where it's so different here, right? Like you'll show up and they'll call you by name and give you a high five.
Yes,
and it's
talk a little trash in the fun ways.
Yeah, in the loving ways, right? But if you're not in that, and you want to, sometimes you just have to be the change you want to see in the world, right? And start that culture shift a little bit.
I agree. Before, usually like at the start of shift every morning, like we log on and I'll like go and look at who, like what engines are working around us just to like know names. And so that way, if we do run a call, I can be like, okay, what's your last name? Okay, yeah, right. Can you help me? Can you get this for me? Like, you know what I mean? I think it goes a long way because I know personally when a fire engine or a fire crew says my name on a call, I'm like, oh, you know my name. Like, like I know how good it makes me feel. So I feel like it's nice. It's a good like courteous thing to do to like give that same energy back to them.
Yeah, that's I feel like that's a conscious thing sometimes.
Totally.
You know what I mean? Like that was something I consciously after a little while was like, man, they're starting to know me by name, and it was easier because we had name tags and they didn't.
Right.
But like I need to start, and with the CAD system that we had, you could pull up who was on the call, be like, okay, it's Ryan and whatever. Okay, and that's the captain. I know the captain. And after a little while, you just get to know them, and then they're like your buddies, like your work buddies. And
you get excited when you're like, ooh, we're running with them.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's engine 7B shift today. Sweet. Those guys are cool. Maybe they'll want to like grab tacos later together and that kind of thing. And
I love that.
And the patient care outcomes after that are so much better.
So much better. Like the congruency of like working as a team is like huge.
And also when you have that squirrely call with like, I've been on calls that kind of went sideways, and I've been with a fire crew who's like, I don't know any of you guys, and you're not really going to bat the way I would like you to go to bat.
Right.
and then inverse is like, no, they're stepping in front of you now because they're like, no, you don't talk to my friend, not my friend, and like it brings a different energy to the whole thing, and solidarity in the field.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the one I thought about a couple things, but the one that like I think would be most important, like a good attribute to be a good EMT, is just to be like a lifelong learner. And that was one thing that there's been a couple, maybe not even mentors, but like old long-term guys that I've worked around that have really like floored me with how like you can tell that they've been doing this. Like there's a guy, we call him the Godfather, who's since retired, but like I'm going to turn 40 this year, and he started doing this before I was born, right? Like he's been doing this a long time.
Right.
And working with him, you could tell every call he was trying to learn something new. Right. And that was really profound to me of, especially being a new medic, like you have this chip on your shoulder of like, I've been through medic school, I'm so smart now, whatever. Yeah,
I know all the things.
I know everything. And then you've got this guy who's been doing this since before you were born, who on a basic call is like afterwards, like, hey, what'd you think about this?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I'm constantly learning. And I think this job field has a real good tendency to, when you start to get comfortable, just to kick you in the balls, right? And be like, oh, you think you know what you're doing? Yeah.
Hold my beer.
Yes. Right. Let me show you this thing that you've never heard of before, you've never seen before, right?
Yeah.
And so going through this is always like, every shift, and it doesn't matter. You could be on a BLS ambulance doing dialysis transfers, but there's going to be something you can learn every day. And if you go in with that, you're going to be really good at after a couple of years.
I agree. It's totally about your attitude. Like, if you're willing to take the time to like learn and to, find some snippet of a call that's new to you, I think that totally changes everything. Yeah.
And working around those people is inspiring too. Like I'm working with that guy a couple of times. It was like, he's paying attention to details that I glazed over because I'm so scared looking at the patient in front of me, and it's like, it's crazy how when you work in this field long enough, you find the inspiration in people of like, you know what? I want to be like that guy. I want to be like that gal. Like, I like how you treat people. I like how you talk. I like your method. Like there's one FTO I had who his big thing is he's I wouldn't say appropriate humor all the time, but he would find little interjections of humor. And it was one of those things is like, he's got effective patient care. He's making rapport very, very quickly. There's so many things to learn from this guy just by watching, and like, you kind of fangirl a little bit over some of them, but they'll never know. But then by kind of inversing that, strive to be that person, because you don't know how many people you're going to actually influence down the road that are like, oh, I do this because you told me to, and I really liked it. And I've always kind of admired that in a lot of different providers that we've worked with.
Yeah.
I agree. There's one provider that I can think of off the top of my head that I don't work with very often because he's in a different shift, but every call, like no matter what kind of call it is, BLS, ALS, if it's even just kind of, ridiculous BLS call, right? Like they just want to go to the hospital type of thing, right? Always has such a good attitude, always. And I think it's nice to work with people like that because it's like, okay, like I think in theory, responding to this call would have been like, oh, we're going here. Like, we're going to go pick up this person. They just want to go to the hospital. Like, you get stuck in this kind of like negative bubble. But then when you work with someone who's just like, you're here to do work. Like, you're here to take them to the hospital. Like, that is your job. Like, you signed up for this. Like, it does kind of help redirect your thinking. And they're always so kind. Like, they're always really, really nice. And it's like, okay, like, yeah, this is not a big deal. This is a part of what it is. Like, I just need to reframe my thinking. So
yeah, that goes so far for longevity too, right? Like if you go into this thinking everything's going to be some cool medical like TV show call and whatever, and then you're just gonna it's gonna be
highly
it's gonna be soul
disappointed.
crushing, right? Like once you realize the reality of this job. But if you can go into it like, I'm gonna talk to some people, I'm gonna maybe make a difference in somebody's life in a little way every day, make their day a little bit better, bad day a little bit better for them. And I'm wondering if I know the same person you're talking about. Like, there's somebody that I can think of that like has been through all the different like ranks of positions and just every day, like happy to be there, right? And it's inspiring. You're right.
It
like,
is.
To be like, man, when I'm feeling burnt out, he's been doing this for 15 years more than me, and he's just every day is just happy to be here, right? And that goes really far.
Right.
It does.
And even extending, just be nice. It's not hard. Like some people it might be hard for, but it's really not that hard to just check yourself a little bit. It's not hard to be nice to somebody because, like you said, that little moment could be the one that's like, maybe this isn't so bad, or maybe I do want to do this longer, And especially when it comes to patient care, building rapport is so hard to do sometimes. And a good place to start is just be nice and then see where it takes you.
Yeah, I think the best thing that you can do, even regardless of what your dispatch notes say or what you even know the patient is, just be objective, right? Like, I know there's been times when I've walked into a call and I've been like, oh, I know exactly what this is going to be. Like, I'm not interested. Like, let's just get in and go. And then, like, as you start talking to the patient more, you're like, oh, wait a second. Like, this is not the direction I thought this was going to be going. And this is actually, like, kind of a bigger deal than I originally thought it was.
Right.
And I think had I gone into it, and kept that same frame of thought and hadn't actually, like, inquired and had the urge to want to know more, I would have been stuck there. And I don't feel like I would have done much for my patient, So it definitely takes, like I said, conscious and awareness. Like, what can I do to get out of my negative thought bubble? Because I think that's really easy to do when you're running as many calls as most people are
when
these
you're
days.
tired. For sure.
Yeah, and call 17 of a 24-hour shift and you haven't slept, and it can be tough.
It can be
tough, but it's going to be a lot more fun with a good attitude. You're still there, no matter what. You're there.
Right.
Better to have a good attitude and have fun with it,
Right.
than have a bad attitude, because then you're going to bring your partners down, you're going to bring the patient down, and it's just going to be a spiral.
And your partner, that relationship with your partner is huge.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I've had I've got a great setup. It's a good day. It's like, a Sunday holiday. We're going to be hanging out. And I'm working with a crummy partner. It's like, this day is now miserable. I've also had days where it's like, I've slept for 15 minutes, but I'm having a heck of a time because my partner is fun to be around because, we're just riding the same energy of like, well, we're here. May as well do the dang thing.
Yeah, it's 3:00 in the morning. And you're just hanging out in the charting room instead of going to bed, because it's just a fun buddy that you like hanging out with. And you're like, I could go to sleep now, but we're talking about whatever stupid thing we're talking about, right? And like just hanging out with a bud. It does. Your partner is definitely more make or break, I feel like, than the show.
For sure.
I agree. And I think that's what makes it hard though too, is like when you do, I know not every agency is like this, but when you rotate their partners, right? Like it makes it hard to be able to establish that relationship. And I think since I've been in a position now where I have one partner that I work with on a consistent basis, it definitely changes the game a lot. And so I know I went, there was a long time where I was bouncing around from partner to partner just because of the way I had chosen it. And it's not that it was bad by any means, but it definitely kind of throws you through a loop because you're trying to have to figure out different personalities. And so it's nice to be able to have some person, just one person that you kind of work with and that you work with on a consistent basis that also like is willing to check you, right? Like there's times when her and I will look at each other and we'll be like, that probably wasn't very nice to say, was it? No, not really. And that's so important. Like that's really, it's nice to have that. Yeah.
I would say though, when you're new, I think having a lot of different partners is a good idea, right? Like when you're brand new, because everybody's going to bring a little bit, you know what I mean? Like, and that's one thing, because we'll talk about, and I think we're going to do a podcast about this later, right? Like the difference between school and how what we don't prepare people well for in school versus what the actual job is like. And realistically, all the book stuff is still the same, right? But there's a little spice we put on top, and that's what's different from partner to partner, I feel like. And you can start to learn those little things, right? Like everybody needs to ask OP or KRST. You're going to ask that on every chest pain, but how do you ask it, right? Or how do you get there? Or those little things you can start to learn from, or, like, oh, they were thinking about moving the patient at this point where I never thought to be thinking about that then, or, those kind of little things. So if you're a sponge and, again, lifelong learner, if you go into every shift with every partner of like, I can learn something from this person. And maybe I've been doing this job for 10 years longer than them, but I can still learn from everybody. Like, you're going to be so good at it by the end. So I think when you're new, if you have the ability, go work with a bunch of different people, take a little bit of everybody, right? Like I always say, I stand on the shoulders of giants, right? Like I feel like I was a pretty good paramedic. I feel like I'm a good EMT instructor. And that's not because of me. That's because of all these people that I've taken little bits from and kind of built a castle out of it, right? And so if you can do that at first, after a couple of years, find the person you're really comfortable with, and then depending on your department and how that all works.
Right.
But,
Right.
And when you work with a partner consistently, it's fun because calls get easy. Based on the 3 words you just said, I know you want this. Or the patient says the one thing that's the trigger to your partner, and you're like, oh, here we go. You gotta lock in on that one. But like, it makes it so much easier. And trying to take that away and like learn from. There's so many things, I've said it before, but like steal assessments from people. If you like the way they do things, take it, and that's the value of diversifying your partners.
Totally. I agree. Yeah, being able to anticipate is huge, I feel like. And I feel like I didn't really start to build that until I had worked with a variety of people. And I was like, okay, this sounds like it's leaning towards this. I'm going to go ahead and just start doing that. And I think that's when people were like, okay, like, I think she's got it. You know what I mean? Yeah. Being able to anticipate.
We didn't define exactly what it is, so it could mean a lot of things.
It can mean a lot.
It is, but you got it.
What do you think, Nita? Are there any that you had kind of thought about specifically? Anything?
I mean, I feel like you guys covered the two really good ones, but I don't know. For me, just constantly constantly being willing to learn. Always, being able to stay humble and also be confident, and just being open-minded. Anticipation, I think, is a big one. I think being a good EMT also is like just beyond like personal attributes, like, be willing to understand the role of you as an EMT and also like your partner as a medic, right? Like, what does that mean for them and what does that mean for you, and how can you best assist them? Or if you have another EMT partner, right, like how can you best assist them as well? Like, what can you bring to the table that's unique and that will ultimately help better your patient care? And there's so many like caveats to that, right? Like, it's just personality, or if it's just like knowledge, like whatever it might be, like just being able to bring something different to the table, I think is huge.
I think one that I know we've harped on it with some of our students quite a bit, but punctuality goes a long, long way in this field. Like, especially we talked about being tired. If you're going to show up late, someone just worked a 48 or a 24 and they just got pooped on for that entire time, they're going to be pretty angry when you show up half an hour late or even 10 minutes late. Like, where we worked, the minimums, you're showing up 15 minutes early. And if you're not there at 15 minutes early,
you're late.
Where are you and why are you not here? And then, the excuses that come from that are boggling. And that's also how you make enemies, which don't make enemies with people as best you can, because you got to work with them for 24 hours. And when you're trapped, you're trapped. So
I will say like one big thing that I've noticed, and I think this is even something that I've found like almost now 3.5, 4 years into my career, is like holding myself to a high standard, right? And not only just in my patient care, but in the way that I treat people, like we talked about, how I leave things, how I leave the ambulance, how I leave the room that I sleep in, the bathroom, right? How like just holding you to a high standard, regardless of what other people might be doing, right? Because there's times when I get an ambulance back and I'm like, this is a crapshoot. Like, awesome, thanks guys. Like, you know what I mean? But I know that regardless of how they do it, I'm going to still leave it the way that I want it to be. And, it's just this idea that like, not everything is going to be reciprocated, but also does that mean that you still shouldn't hold yourself to a higher standard of, living in care? Yeah.
Especially when it comes to like patient care, because there have definitely been moments where it's like, oh, I know someone who would just walk this call. And then it's like, well, let's just take the extra 2 minutes and let's ask the questions and do the thing, right? Like, we're not thrilled to be here either sometimes, but you signed up, take the extra 2 seconds, hold yourself to a standard that you feel proud about, right? Like, I'm sure we've all had a call where after it's like, I am not entirely proud of how I handled that, but here we are, and those are the learning moments too. Sometimes that's the moment, like, okay, learn not to do that again, And if you hold your bar and your standard high, it's going to bring everybody, you're going to elevate everybody around you. And, there, for the most part, there will be people that will just be who they are, but there's going to be people be like, oh man, Nide shows up 20 minutes early every day, and like every time I get in here, the kitchen looks good. Like there's no dishes out. Like, man, I can't leave this for her like that. And it's gonna work its way down the line to elevate everybody's level.
And I think where it becomes a problem is like if you have someone who isn't holding themselves to that higher standard, and then in turn you're like, well, I'm going to do the same because you're not doing it, as like more like a to get back at them versus like. You are like that. I think that's where it's kind of like, okay, well, are you making the situation even better for yourself or the people you work with, right? Like, regardless of what they're going to do, they're still going to do what they're going to do. But like, how can you manage that?
Yeah,
how
don't
can
fall
you?
to their level.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
One thing you said earlier about being open-minded, I think is good, and maybe in a different way than you were meaning, but I think that's something we need to have personally, because we're going to see all different types of people. And your personal biases, like should have no effect on anything of what you're doing here. And so I think that's one attribute as a person you need to have. Like, you are going to go on trans people as patients. You're going to go on homeless people. You're going to go on, the kind of overlooked members of society, I guess. Right. And your job is to care for them the same as you would every other patient. Right. And you should be caring for every patient like they're a family member, right? Like that should be your level. So, you need to walk into this. And if you have preconceived biases against certain groups or whatever, like that needs to stop. I mean, and I preach that in my EMT classes. Like, if that's who you are now, then you shouldn't be in this class, or you need to rearrange your brain, because when somebody calls 911, we can't have those biases and we can't act on them. Like, you're going to treat everybody the same when you show up.
Yeah, you have to stay objective. You have to stay objective. And if you find yourself getting into this position where you're losing that objectivity, then you got to either reflect and do some work on that, or you need to find a different career.
See a therapist.
Yeah, I agree. I think everyone should see therapists, period, but especially people that work in this field, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're right. Like, people definitely, if you have these preconceived notions, it's going to be hard to do this job. If you're going to hold on to these notions, you need to be able to button it up and not let it affect anything that you're doing, right? Just from a human perspective, obviously we don't need that, but especially in a field where you're going to be going into these people's homes, you're going to be in their lives. You are the guest here a little bit. Yes, you're here to do a job and help them, but you need to figure out what you got to do to set that aside and just handle the situation. Right? Yeah. Be professional, be respectful, be nice. It's not hard.
And I think like 9 out of 10 times, if you put, two groups of people together, right? I know there's like some sort of YouTube that does this, but they put like two opposing groups together, and they like have like, discourse essentially, and like talk about their opinions and whatnot. 9 out of 10 times they walk away being like, okay, like I learned something from this, right? Like, you're not actually who I thought you were, right? And I think that's like the whole point of this is like, we learn a lot more by being open-minded and just letting things be than like coming in with a closed mind and, our preconceived notions and our biases. Like, I mean, you're going to walk away having, maybe a different outlook on something than you originally did. Yeah. And,
Yeah, you can, I think in general, you can hide in your comfort zone of like socially or whatever. But if you do this job, that's going to crumble really quick. And so like, know that going into this, if you're new to this, like you're going to be exposed to everything. And in a very good way. I don't mean that in a bad way whatsoever. Like, because all those generally, and I feel like I've seen people that have really change their thoughts on certain issues or whatever, because like they just weren't exposed to the reality of life for a lot of people. And you're going to see everybody doing this job.
And once again, right, you don't know someone's battles and you don't know what they're going through. Yeah. Just like they don't know what you're going through. So it's like, why go into it with a certain, thought process when you're better off just being open-minded about it?
A few years back, a word that sort of bounced around my head, and I kind of opened my mind to a lot of things, is just perspective. Right? Like, you have a very set perspective of where you come from and what you've dealt with your life, and it's not going to be the exact same as most of the world, right? Like, could you take a second and put that empathy of like, okay, well, I don't know what it's like to grow up in your circumstances or live where you live, but I can try and make this situation better, right? And like, as long as I can take the 2 seconds to figure it out, or at least be open-minded to the idea of figuring it out, that's sometimes all you can ask for,
Yeah, empathy is huge. Like, really, and it can be, the burnout can really affect your empathy, but like you need to, that's something you need to be and just in healthcare in general, you need to be empathetic. But that is definitely a personal attribute of a good EMT is empathy, for sure.
Full circle, for sure.
Though another one that I had, and this is kind of a personal thing because I'm not super sociable. Like, you guys might not even realize, like, I'm generally in real life like a quiet, shy person. But you're gonna get eaten alive if you're like that in this field, right? And so I think to be good at this job, you need to not even be personable, but know how to talk to people, right? Like, and like, I know for me personally, that's just not, when I go to the grocery store, natural. I don't want to talk to a single person. Like self-checkout lines are like, that's my thing, right? I love that kind of thing. But you need to be able to go to people that you have at least initially, like there's no bridges between you. It's an old person, different perspectives, right? Different whatever. And ask them and just have a normal conversation with them. And you're going to ask so many grandparents about their grandkids. Do they live close by? Right? Like, what are their names as you're doing a 30-minute transport? You just need to be able to talk to people. And I've noticed this as an instructor, that especially younger generations who have been more online and less especially like post-COVID, that there was that gap of school socialization and all of that. It can be a challenge for people just to hold conversations and to be good at this. It's your number one thing. You need to be able to talk.
Yeah.
Just talk to people.
Social skills go a long way. Also, read a room. Learn when to and when not to open your mouth.
Nonverbal cues.
Yeah. If I'm looking at you, like, maybe don't do what you're gonna do.
Don't say it.
You're gonna say it anyway. I know, but. Yeah, I mean, it goes a long way. Like, read the room, understand social cues, and then, like, you're not going to mesh with everybody. Let's just be real. Like, you've worked in several jobs before, hopefully, if you're listening to this, and you probably have not gotten along with everybody. Remember, once again, you're with them for extended periods of time, and you have to deal with other people's emergencies. Can you put your stuff to the side and just, all right, well, I'm working with Nide again, so here we go, right? Like, but just one of those, you just be able to own your craft and put your biases aside.
Yeah, and I think that comes with time, because there's not many people that I don't enjoy working with, but I know every now and then I like get stuck with a partner and I'm like, not exactly my favorite person to work with, but it's about, like, once again, attitude, right? If I go into the shift and I'm like, you know what, I'm going to handle this the best way I know how. On calls, I'm going to work with this person as I need to. But when we're not on a call, like, you don't have to be friends with that person per se, right? Like, you're still required to an extent to be able to speak and, but don't feel like you need to, like, cater to them by any means, right?
Entertain.
Like, be respectful, do the things, but also, like, know that, if you're back at the station, go to your room. Like, you don't have to be around them all the time. And I think that's, like, a really key thing to learn is, like, not, like, remembering not to get too hung up on the fact that, like, you may not enjoy working with this person, but at the same time, you don't have to, like, enjoy working with them. You can find ways around that, so.
Yeah.
I think empathy, going back to it, is one more variation of it is, like, check on your friends, check on your partners too. Like, we kind of talked about, like, you don't know what they're going through at home type stuff, but sometimes it's hard when you're like, he's so crabby all the time. And then you realize, what's going on in their life. It's like, okay, like, I got to check on you. Are you okay? Like, you doing good? And a lot of times in this field, we're very stoic type people. Like, I'm fine, leave me alone, But also there's the occasional, like, I do need to talk about this to somebody, and you're very impartial, and do you leave better for it? I don't know necessarily, but they probably do, or at least you tried, and that's more than some people can say.
I agree.
Yeah, I think, again, attributes, self-reflection and, some introspection is a good attribute to have here of, like, am I okay, right? Like, you need to be looking at yourself of, like, because, we all want to be that stoic, like, nothing touches me kind of person. But I don't know. I feel like if you've done this job for 3 years and you're not a different person than you were when you started, like, maybe you just didn't run enough calls or something, right? Like, it's gonna change who you are as a person.
You're not paying attention.
Yeah, and you need to be able to, like, internalize, not internalize, but look internally of, like, am I okay? Because you're gonna run calls and, like, for whatever reason, some calls are gonna hit you. You've ran that same old person code 30 times in the last 3 years, and then one person just looks like your grandma, and, like, you need to be able to have that self-reflection of, like, man, I'm not okay right now, and I need to go get therapy or talk to my partner, or, like, luckily I have a really good support system at home, so like, I was just always able to go, like, even if I didn't talk about it, like, just having people,
just knowing that
like,
someone was
that somebody was there, even if it wasn't verbally said. I'm sure my wife was able to pick up when I came home after like a bad shift of just, like, whatever it is, right? Or find your thing. Like, I do a lot of motorcycle trips. I do motorcycle touring, and when I worked in the field, that was, like, I was going to do at least one, like, 5 to 7 day trip. And that was funny. I was talking to somebody outside of EMS a while ago about this, about, like, because he would do the same thing. And, like, there's just something zen about sitting on a motorcycle for 8 straight hours. You know what I mean?
My back hurts.
Yeah, right.
Carry on.
Just mentally, though, right? Like, he was focused on it. There's nobody else around because I do most of my trips solo. And like that was my therapy, right? So if I would just go disconnect from the world and usually go backcountry stuff I ride adventure bikes. I'd be on dirt roads and in the mountains and I couldn't talk to anybody, you know, like and just totally disconnect. And that was my way to get there, right? To get my head back straight. So whatever it is, I think have that self-reflection to know when you need that and then have the courage to go find that thing, right? Whatever it is. Maybe it's therapy. Maybe it's whatever. Just make sure you're not falling down the trap of like self-medicating with alcohol because that's a big issue. So
you find an outlet.
Yeah, find a healthy outlet. Yeah. Right?
Like gym is a really good one. That was one that like, you know, me and my wife both, it was like last night sucked. Yeah. Yesterday sucked. Do you want to go lift heavy things and then throw it on the ground and feel better after? Oh, sure. You know, and then you always walk away feeling better, at least a little bit, until you wake up the next morning and you can't move. But like, you know, there's so many good outlets out there, and there's, you know, so many different resources that people just don't take advantage of. But it comes back to self-reflection, your attribute. Can you look into yourself and be like, well, this is something I would enjoy doing. Like I like to do the silversmithing stuff as like my, I'm going to disconnect for a little while, and that's how I live in my own moments, you know, and I'm not thinking about anything else. And but finding that in yourself, whatever that is really important. Yeah.
And also like this kind of goes aside from what you're talking about. But knowing your boundaries in this career is huge, right? Know your boundaries, you know, in the workplace, know your boundaries outside of it. If you're coming home and, you know, say you have had a rough shift and you're like, I just don't really want to be spoken to right now. Like, you know how to verbalize that. So yeah, I think knowing your boundaries is also like a really key attribute to working. And sometimes you don't figure that out until you've gone through experiences and you can say, okay, like this is where I'm drawing the line, either in how people treat you or how you treat other people, or, you know, calls that you can take versus what you can't take, right? Like there's kind of a fluidity to that in terms of what some EMTs feel like they can take versus what others can. And so I think knowing your boundaries and being able to verbalize that, like, and that comes with a certain sense of confidence as well, right? Like you have to be able to say, okay, I am not ready for this, or I can't handle this right now, or, hey, I need a minute. Like, but being able to, once again, be able to internally reflect and be like, okay, this is what I am good with. This is what I'm not good with. And being able to verbalize that and let the people around you know what that is. So, yeah.
Find the ability to say no.
Yes.
You know, like how many, a lot of it is have people having that grown up conversation, but like, you know, hey, can you stay after and pick up this extra shift? Well, I just worked at 36 and yeah, sure. Right. And like, that's a lot of the new people fall into that trap of I can't say no. They don't want you there if you can't take care of yourself, because you can't take care of others if you can't take care of yourself. And saying no sometimes, and even it's more like, I mean, I feel like a lot of us who got in this field are, if you have a social group outside of this field, I can't, sorry, you know, and like, but even that's like, hey, we're going out tonight. I know you work tomorrow morning. You want to go? I haven't seen you guys in 6 weeks. No, I can't, you know, and like, it's tough, but that's the harsh reality. This is a lifestyle career. It's not a 9 to 5 typical profession.
Okay.
Well, and with that, sorry, I know you're.
Oh, I was just gonna make a joke about big old Wade over here with friends.
Yeah. Wait, what?
Oh, gang's all here.
I was just gonna say, like, the one thing that I always think about after like a shift, as I'm like walking out to my car, I'll ask myself, if I were to have this exact same day again, next shift, could I do it? And if the answer is, if I even hesitate, it's like, okay, no, I need to call it sick. You know what I mean? And that's not something that I'm saying I take advantage of by any means, but being able to check yourself and be like, you know, if I were to have all these same calls again, this next shift, would I be able to manage that? And if you know that your answer is no, and it could be just simple calls, right? Like you went and picked grandma up off the floor like 6 times, right? But if you're at the point that you're not, once again, knowing your boundaries, if you're not able to go into it with the same introspection that you have all the other times, are you going to be able to work the next shift, right? And so I think that all goes back to like knowing your boundaries as well, but like being able to like check yourself, like, you know, can I do this?
Check on yourself.
Check on yourself.
Yeah.
So Nide, as a woman in EMS, are there any like personal attributes you feel like are especially important as a woman in this field? Because I'm sure, I'm not a woman, I can't speak from your perspective, but having worked with a lot of female partners, I feel like it's a different ballgame for you for sure.
Oh yeah. And it's funny because for so long, and really, honestly, I would say up until the partner that I currently work with, I kind of struggled to find my footing and my confidence when it came to, working with an all-male fire engine and then also a male paramedic partner. I would kind of feel like I was the oddball out if I tried to say something, not because I didn't think that they wouldn't be receptive to it, but just because I wasn't confident enough in myself in that situation. But now, having worked with who I work with, it taught me a lot about just being confident in myself, right? I know the things, I know what I'm doing in my job. I'm confident in that. I know my medicine. Like, I'm okay to speak up and say something. And I think confidence, honestly, for me, goes a long way. And I can honestly say that's taken a long time to find, especially when you're in a male-dominated career setting. It's not ideal, but the best thing that I can advertise or give advice on is honestly just knowing your worth, knowing to be confident in yourself. It's huge. It's huge, and it does not come easy. And I don't have any tips on how to make it more feasible for people, right? I feel like I got lucky because I work with someone who just naturally has this exuberant confidence, which, to some people can seem like too much. But to me, I was able to glean from that, like, okay, like, I do know what I'm doing here. It's okay if I say, I don't agree with your decision on this, to like a male paramedic, right? And it's not because I don't think that, like I said, they're going to be receptive or they're going to take it the wrong way. It's just, it's hard. It's hard, right? And so, yeah, being confident and knowing your stuff. You know what you know. You know that you're right. And be confident in that and have the courage to speak up. And if you don't, like, it's okay. We'll get there. Talk to someone about it. Talk to another female in that, in the agency or, in your crew, and ask them for advice. Like, what can I do? I feel kind of stuck sometimes when I'm in these situations. So yeah, confidence is huge. It's really huge. Yeah. And it's something that I struggled with for a long time. So I feel very happy to be on the other side and be like, yeah, like, I know what I know.
Yeah.
I got this.
We
like,
definitely, I think, all struggle with confidence, but I'm sure
Yeah.
it's even more
so, for
when,
sure.
Yeah.
When you're kind of the minority on the scene in terms of,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I can't imagine. I'm sure it's just, so much more pressure of that, the expectations.
Well, and it's probably even different too as like a female EMT versus like a female paramedic, right? Like, I can only say as an EMT, being around a medic partner and then like all medic or an all male engine crew, right? I'm like, do I really even have the like ability to say something? Like, I'm just an EMT. Like, what do I know? You know what I mean? And so I'm sure it's even different as a medic, like having to hone in on that like confidence. And so, yeah, I know it's difficult and it's hard, but that's probably like one of the biggest things that I've had to pick up on and learn.
Cool.
Yeah.
Seeing like call types too, just like, there's one in particular that comes to my mind, but like things that I don't even glance at or don't even have two thoughts about. And then, seeing my female partner, like clearly in turmoil about what's going on. It's like, oh, I need to pay more attention, right? It's not just me as, I'm not worried about number one right here. I've got my partner to look out for too. And yeah, I can only imagine the perspective is so much different.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's,
sure.
you definitely, I don't know, having seen, you definitely have to prove yourself a lot more as a woman, which is unfortunate because there's no reason it should be that way. But I've definitely seen that with, how other crews respond or how patients respond
Totally.
sometimes.
Yeah.
And how some of the things that I've heard, especially like older male patients say to some of my female partners, I was like, brother, like in 1961, that was not acceptable. How do you think that's acceptable now?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, wow.
Yeah.
It's a whole different perspective.
It is. Yeah. It's definitely, it's a different ballgame. But like I said, it's all about your attitude that you go into it with, also learning to kind of let things roll off your back, right? Not all the time, right? Like, know when to draw the line, but also just knowing like, is it worth, pick your battles, but also know when something's not right, and to be like, hey, wasn't cool of you to say that. You're not going to treat me with disrespect. And that also takes confidence and courage to get to that point. So it is, it's hard. It's definitely difficult. Yeah. In its own way, for sure. But I think once you're there and once you have other people to talk to about it, that makes a huge difference. Huge difference. Yeah.
We'll have to get a Ladies of EMS episode going.
I plan on it for sure. Yeah. I think that'd be really beneficial thing
Totally.
to a lot of younger
Eye-opening.
women trying to get into this or who just started that
Or
are
even
struggling.
the
Or even-
fellas listening,
yeah.
chill out, dog.
Yeah.
It's not that serious.
Yeah, for real.
Well, cool. Yeah, I think hopefully this is some good information for for new EMTs, and a lot of the stuff I think we talked about, like you have to work towards and build towards. And,
Totally.
It's unfortunately a lot of stuff is just time. Just
Reps.
Just take some time and come into it with a good attitude and ready to learn, and like ready to take some criticism, and you're probably going to be pretty successful in this.
Yep.
So, cool. Well, thanks Nide for being here. Thanks, Wade,
Thanks for
as
having me.
always. Thanks for listening or watching whatever you're doing. Hit subscribe, all those kind of things. And we will catch everyone next time.